Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel, and thanks for logging on. Today we're discussing the Jaeger-LeCoultre Duometre Spherotourbillon Jubilee. This is a dual power reserve, dual time, biaxial tourbillon, limited edition of 75 pieces from the year 2013 in platinum, which you can see and purchase on our website. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you enjoy these videos, and please click on the card in the upper right hand corner of the screen at any time during this video to see our full sales listing for this watch, with additional accessories included in the sale, high-resolution images for your desktop, and naturally complete pricing details for this Duometre Spherotourbillon Jubilee. Now, the watch on my wrist represented the flagship of the 2013 Jubilee timepieces that Jaeger-LeCoultre released to celebrate its 180th anniversary. Now, the watch is absolutely sensational as the most complex member of the Duometre family, featuring a dual time display, dual power reserve display, two mainspring barrels for separate functions, and a tourbillon that pivots on two separate axes. Now, the watch is easy to wear despite its 42.4mm diameter across the round of the case. It's also reasonably slim. You can see on my 16cm circumference wrist how the watch wears. Only 14.3mm thick in spite of the complexity within it. Has a generously domed sapphire and a conical profile to its bezel, so it will slip underneath the dress cuff, and it's a very accommodating 50.3mm across the wrist. So I believe, despite the number of parts inside this watch and the mass of its case, its compact footprint means you can wear it well on a wrist as small as 14.5cm in circumference. Now, the timepiece features a wonderful strap that I have to describe as one of the best that Jaeger-LeCoultre provides on any watch in any series of its collection. The Duometre family always gets good straps qualitatively and aesthetically. It feels supple, almost like it's been broken in, and yet it's completely fresh and new, with a generously bolstered center to give it body and form and volume. It's a semi-gloss rectangular scale alligator leather in black with a monotone stitch and folded edges, and a natural grain calfskin on the underside for souplesse against the skin. Now, it has a platinum pin buckle, which I'm happy to say matches the case. In 2006, Jaeger-LeCoultre adopted its first generation double deployant clasp, and here is that double deployant clasp. You can see it has two folding members and three primary components with the chassis and the two folding elements. Now, JLC switched from providing a platinum clasp with platinum watches when it introduced this white gold clasp, the reasoning being smaller components and smaller folding portions of the clasp itself would be vulnerable to damage and could become distended because they are so small if they were fashioned out of softer platinum, white gold 18 karat being stronger and the preference for this type of clasp. And you can see, sure enough, this is a 2006 Master Tourbillon in platinum, the first year to get the white gold double folding clasp with a platinum case. JLC said there was a functional reason that it equipped those watches with white gold clasps when speccing platinum cases. So it stands to reason that without a folding clasp, Jaeger-LeCoultre should revert to platinum for the pin buckle. And yes, this is a PT950 pin buckle. As long as you're consistent about it, I appreciate the effort. You'll also note that the watch features a handsomely double finished case. You see high polish on the bezel flank, the bezel top, and the flanks of the lugs. You'll also note high polish atop the lugs with a bevel between the two surfaces and satin finish along the case band. You can see the generous step from this angle between the lugs and the case, creating a strong character line. This is a soldered style lug being welded on and then hand finished to remove evidence of the joint. Lange often uses this style, but they actually use screws to affix the lugs. This is the harder way to do it, the tougher way to do it. JLC making not just its own movements, but also its own case. You know that this is manufacturer watchmaking of the highest order inside and out. The dial is spectacular. At 3 o'clock, the Spherotourbillon. It is a tourbillon braced on a full bridge for stability, with a free-sprung balance for precision, as well as a surprising degree of impact resistance, as not only is it free-sprung, but it features shock protection on the balance staff. You can actually see the KIF shock protection atop the tourbillon cage. Let me see if I can get a little bit closer right here. Oh, indeed I can. Now, the tourbillon beats away at 21,600 vibrations per hour, and it pivots on two axes. One is a 30-second circuit, the other is a 15-second circuit. So yeah, take that, Grubel 4C 24-second tourbillon. Now it is remarkably compact, and it also incorporates features dedicated to chronometry. One of the reasons that it pivots in two separate axes is because with respect to gravity, you will be able to orient the escapement and the hairspring through more angles of incidence by moving in two directions at once rather than a single circular pattern. This spherotourbillon, or biaxial spherical arc, makes more sense for precision and restores the chronometric precision goal of the tourbillon in a wristwatch format. Simply spinning in a circle will not do it unless you're using a pocket watch that sits with one orientation with respect to gravity. With the spherotourbillon, you get that advantage back because now you cycle through every orientation with respect to gravity. It'll run fast in some positions and slow in others, thus essentially zeroing out the effect of gravity. Now it also features a cylindrical hairspring, which you can see in blue just underneath the cage of the tourbillon. The cylindrical hairspring, like a vintage marine chronometer, allows concentric beating. That is, it allows the hairspring to have its center of gravity more centered than a flat hairspring or even a Breguet overcoil would. The two features, the spherotourbillon pattern and the cylindrical hairspring, are all there to even out the effects of gravity on the balance. Now you'll also note that there is a beautifully broad aperture, and you can see components of the German silver movement base. Everything that looks vaguely gold underneath the white granular opaline style dial is in fact the movement itself. But let's take a look at the other side of the dial for a moment, because there's a lot going on. Watch the constant seconds. I can zero the seconds. So this is effectively a hacking function for a tourbillon watch. You rarely see a case where a watch has a zero reset capability and a tourbillon all in once. In general, there is no hacking function for a tourbillon, and so you can always reset the watch once you set the hour and the minute, and this watch does have two time zones, so we'll demonstrate that in a moment. It's a wonderful refinement for a most uncommon pairing of tourbillon and what is effectively a hacking second. Even though you can't stop the tourbillon cage like you can with stop seconds, you can still zero it out. Now, two power reserves. One operates the escapement, one operates the displays, so effectively the tourbillon has its own barrel. Now you'll also note the second time display at 12 o'clock. The way you actuate this, and I'm going to show you something special here, because there is a small blue triangular date index, you can actually move that forward or backwards. And you can see how it jumps to the first in the course of a single night. Or you can jump it back to the 31st if you were traveling in different directions across the international date line. So the watch has a unique jumping radial display for its bidirectional date, and you can see by pulling the crown out to extremity, you can change the time on the 24-hour format second time dial. Now, two power reserve indicators and two separate mainspring barrels. It makes sense. This is the 55 joule twin mainspring barrel 50-hour power reserve. Perhaps I should state dual 50-hour power reserve caliber 382. Now you see it has a Côte de Soleil, or a sunburst Côte de Genève style that radiates out from the balance bearing the spherotourbillon. This is German silver, or Maillechort as it's known in the French-speaking watchmaking regions. It's essentially a combination of nickel, copper, and zinc, with the copper giving it that beautiful golden hue rather than the silvered rhodium plated that you see on high-end contemporary Swiss movements. This is designed to evoke the pocket watch era when Jaeger-LeCoultre first worked with the dual mainspring barrel, dual drivetrain concept. And sure enough, you can see an example. This is a Patek Philippe 5270G. This is what rhodium plated brass looks like. It's silver. What you see on the bridges and the plates is the rhodium. And again here, you can see the contrast with the golden hue of the bridges. You'll also note that there is a beautiful mirrored anglage. It's easiest to see when I turn the watch flush to the camera. Now you can see the edges of those bridges lighting up, mirror polished by hand to achieve that gorgeous rounded finish, optically smooth. You'll note two different types of screws, both polished, black polished screw heads, and heat oxidized or kiln fired blued screws. Quite beautiful. There's also brushed finish on select components, and you'll note that all of the wheels are immaculate in their own respect, with a unique ratcheting system atop each mainspring barrel so that when one winds, the other freewheels. You wind the watch by turning the crown in two directions, and look how beautifully detailed the crown is. It has a blasted finish inside and then a raised and polished JLC logo. Outboard, you can see the knurling has two different levels, small intermediate knurling and one large ridge to make the crown a pleasure to handle, distinctive in feel and in appearance. This is as good as it gets. The twin mainspring barrels powering two parallel drivetrains, again, one to drive the indications, one to drive the tourbillon, thus two separate watches, two separate movements, and two separate drivetrains regulated by a single biaxial tourbillon escapement. This is, in high horology, as good as it gets. Put the best on your wrist and buy this watch on our website.